games. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to STARCASTERS, the best Star Wars Legends podcast on YouTube, and I'll stand by that. We have a pretty cool episode today. Obviously, with Maul, Shadow Lord on the horizon. People are talking about Darth Maul. I'm seeing every major YouTube channel right now uploading hordes of Darth Maul content. So, in case all of that wasn't enough for you and you wanted even more Maul content, I'm joined here with my hosts, Jular and Gabriel. How we doing, guys?
Yeah, very good, thank you.
Very good, yeah. Thank you.
Cool. I'm excited to talk about it. I didn't expect to like this run as much as I did, given that's only 4 issues. And right before we jump into it, quick reminder, I am affiliated with TheorySabers.com. If you want your own saber replica of some type inspired by designs from such episodes as 1 through 6, you'll be able to find those over at TheorySabers.com. Use my code EvanPrince for 10% off. All right, so let's jump straight into it. Jular, let's start with you. What did you think about the Darth Maul Year 2000 comic? I'm just going to call it Y2K from now on.
Yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised. Really good. Like, for what little writing there is, it's a pretty bare bones story, but like the writing was very good. The dialogue was good. I could really hear like it is written for Peter Serafinowicz' Maul, like the original Maul voice, and it very much like came across like that. This was a lot more dialogue we got from Maul than in The Phantom Menace, although it still fit his character. The art as well was really good. Like, different in a way from, I know we've done Dark Empire on here, and I talked a lot about the art on that. This is more like, I guess, what you'd expect from a modern comic. Like, it's not going for a specific art style like Dark Empire was with its two tones. This is just very much everything's as vibrant as it wants to be. It looks it's the Phantom Menace era of the prequels. It's very much, they're throwing in every reference to that as you can get. Like, you see I think they're called Dugs, like the Subbulba race. Like, every race you see in the Phantom Menace, they're all popping up everywhere. Like, it's very much like of that era. It's the most vibrant like of Star Wars you'll see. And I think if you like the prequels, and especially when you see all those alien races, I think this is really like in your wheelhouse of what you'd like to see from Star Wars.
What about you, Gabe?
I thought it was very good, and I think we all were a bit pleasantly surprised. I've read this before, and I really enjoyed it, but I thought I didn't need to, but I thought I'll brush up on it today before we start. And I opened it, and I just read the whole thing all in one go because it's just really entertaining. Again, with the art, I think one of the best things about the art for me, which I noted, was that the characters, everybody looks like a different person without it seeming too like they're trying too hard to stylize it. And it's very clear. It looks like the prequels. Everything just looks really nice. And as much as I enjoy some older, like I really like 80s comic art that was more stylized, like Dark Empire. I also kind of often prefer the more modern comic art style where it's there's a bit more color and it's a bit sharper. And
things look the way they're meant to as well.
Yeah,
it's less like up for interpretation.
I was going to note how much better the art
I think
was.
That's I think that is really good. I think the story, like I said, it's a really thin story, but that's all it needs to be because it's only like 4 issues. And I think the best comparison is I hear people say this about Shadowhunter, which I've not read yet, but the Maul novel, is people say it's like a Terminator story. And I feel like in the EU, before we had the Clone Wars, Maul was often written like a Terminator type character in Star Wars. And I think that's, some of the inspiration is he does feel like he's the Star Wars Terminator. And I think you get that in this comic.
He's just there to do like Sidious's bidding. Yeah, he's like full on, like Sidious says, kill all these guys. He's like, okay, I'll kill them all. Yeah.
So, perfect. You get more depth to him, but this is just a little comic series, and there doesn't need to be much more to it. And I think some people expect more from things sometimes. I know some people, like critique the Clone Wars miniseries for not doing all these big, massive things, and I always have to say it was like shorts that were a couple minutes. That's what it was. It didn't have to be all those things. And I think the same about this comic series. It's just a short, really good little series about Darth Maul. I think it was really, really good. I really liked it.
From the get-go, it was always going to be like a 4-issue run, so you knew going into it like this is a small little action-packed thing. Like, you can literally read it in about 30 minutes if you're going pretty fast. Like, it's very short.
So I must have read it in like 20 minutes at the most, maybe 15. I went through it really quickly, and I stopped to appreciate it.
It is the equivalent, I guess, Clone Wars there. If it's the equivalent of a single like modern Clone Wars episode, like of the newer series. Like that's it. It's like one storyline, you know, it's
Did
very
kind of feel
quick.
like that.
Yeah. It sets out like he has a mission, like I have to kill everyone in this Black Sun organization, and then it ends when he's killed everyone in the Black Sun organization. That's the entire arc. Like, you know, there's no
it's simple
really
in a good way.
Very
Isn't
definitive.
it? It's like yeah, it's not trying to do too much, which I appreciate. You know, like, for an example I have of that is Dark Empire. I do feel like it's trying to do too much in the time that it has.
Yeah,
and
Dark
there's
Empire is
another
trying
comic
to be
series.
like all three films in one
Yeah.
series. Yeah, it's really.
I think we'll probably get to it someday. Although I won't recommend it until after the New Jedi Order books. They did a comic series that got cancelled called Invasion, and it's probably my least favorite Star Wars comic ever. One of my least favorite comics ever, and that's another case where it's just trying to do so much in a period where you can't do very much. And I think whoever wrote this accepted that you can only do so much in this period and was happy with that. I think some writers, like I said, just feel the need to, you know, we can't be held by the constrictions of the time period or whatever. Let's just do whatever we want. And no, you do, because I think sometimes, I mean, I'm a big High Republic fan. That is literally a full war at some point during, you know, when the galaxy was supposed to be at peace. That is a little bit ridiculous. I think this comic just gets that right. It's not trying to do too much, which I think is what makes it work.
Yeah,
really. It's
a
not
lot of
trying
Maul's
too hard.
prequel kind of stories are all based essentially the year of the Phantom Menace. Like it's the 6 months leading up to the film, because they kind of know like you can't go too early because he's gonna be before he's an apprentice. So you can really only go between he's a Sidious's trained apprentice and the Phantom Menace, and that's like a 2-year, 3-year period. We don't quite know exactly how long. Well, we probably do, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, they fit all their stories in that.
Plagueis book.
Yeah.
In Plagueis somewhere, which I have read but don't remember too well.
But it doesn't seem to be a very long time, and yeah, they fit all of their like all the novels. I think all the Maul novels that came around that time are all set that same year. Like basically, as soon as the Naboo blockade starts, they're like kind of all around that era.
I was gonna say as well, considering it was written in 2000, I noticed a trope in that era of comics, which was apparent in a lot of other Star Wars comics, even ones I enjoy, is they were often really edgy. Like I enjoy stuff that's dark.
Which we could go back to that.
I really enjoy dark stuff, and that's something I appreciate about the period, is that it's willing to go far. Sometimes, though, a lot of the time they go really edgy just for no reason, and this comic doesn't do that. It goes dark.
Yeah,
but
it's
it
not
doesn't
too
go,
far.
Like, really edgy.
It didn't
some
lean
comics,
into like gore in the way it could have. There was like a decapitation, but it's like it's very quick. Like it's not like I feel like they could have made him, if it's a Terminator story, a lot more sadistic than he is in this comic, and I think there was a good amount of restraint shown there.
Right.
And like, you know, Maul isn't like a sadistic guy. You know, he just kind of gets the job done. You know,
Yeah.
he's just does what he's supposed to do. Now, I've got to do this, whatever. You know,
Very
not,
cold,
not like
but
he,
not sadistic.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. He doesn't care. Is probably what it is. You know,
Yeah.
whatever he has to do to get his goals, really.
Yeah.
Sidious.
A lot of comics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of
Yeah,
comics
whatever
in
his
this
master
time
said.
do get quite edgy sometimes. I mean, I love Republic. Gets a little bit edgy every now and then. The Legacy comics get quite edgy. They're still great stories. It's just, you know, of its time. This comic series doesn't feel of its time. It's not trying too hard. You know, it's not trying to be really shocking. It just is shocking, and you know that you watch it, you read it, and you think, "Fucking hell, Darth Maul is crazy as shit."
Yeah.
You're reading it.
It actually works alongside the Vader series, like the 2017 Vader series. I feel like you don't feel like there's a 17-year gap in the like between those
Feels very
comics.
modern.
Like, yeah,
It's
it
like a
does
good
feel
modern comic.
very modern. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
I definitely see what you mean.
something else I thought of was, this is something I've been talking about on my channel more recently, and I think it's just because I've been playing so much media, so many games, movies, and stuff. But particularly with Star Wars, it was from a specific era of Star Wars where it was okay with kind of being a little bit darker, because Revenge of the Sith was on the horizon, and I think that George knew that was coming. So we saw, like, the fact that the Maul comic and then also the Vader comic, I think, does this pretty well too. It just lets the bad guys be bad guys and shows the bad guys are bad guys because occasionally they get away with doing the bad thing. so much media, it's like all you see is the bad guy trying to be bad and then getting toppled or changing his ways. It's like, did they ever do anything bad and like get away with it? Like it's nice
Yeah.
to see that sometimes. It's like, oh yeah,
And there's no
Very
attempt
Darth
to
Maul
make
is
you
a
emphasize
beast.
with them as well. You aren't meant to emphasize with Maul being like, oh yeah, you know, he's just a good guy in a bad area. Like, no, he's a he's a Sith Lord.
I like
He's
that.
not a good
It's
guy.
very
Yeah.
rare you get that, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
that almost, it doesn't recontextualize the Phantom Menace for me, but it makes my thinking of the Duel of Fates. It's like, oh yeah, I've now seen with my eyes Maul eradicate a room full of people mercilessly. Like, this is a beast. This is a monster. Like, this is the stakes of the fight feel bigger, and I don't feel like we get a lot of that in modern media in general, but also modern Star Wars.
Yeah, I feel like
I
the
think
Phantom
part of
Menace
that
was
was,
definitely missing a scene to kind of show what you're dealing with Maul, because all you saw him is fight Qui-Gon for like 30 seconds on Tatooine. You have no idea how powerful this guy is, and you obviously get a sense of that during the Duel of the Fates itself. But I feel like if there was just a scene like in issue 4 of this where he fights like a few of these bodyguards and he takes them all out in like 30 seconds, just something like that, him going up against some blaster wielders maybe on Naboo, to show like this guy is very powerful. Like I guess what you see in this comic book would be the most powerful Sith we've seen on screen in terms of combat prowess, because you didn't see Vader do like a whole lot of that in the original trilogy. Obviously, he's way more powerful than Maul, but in terms of what you've seen on film, I think it would have helped contextualize Maul as an even bigger threat.
I agree.
I think it's partly because I think George Lucas set out to do so much in the Phantom Menace, and it does accomplish so much. But I think I think it's the reason that so much media, both in canon and the EU, setting up the Phantom Menace, why there's so much of it and why so much of it is so good, is probably because of how much there is to set up. I mean, like I said, a lot of EU fans like stuff like Master and Apprentice in canon because it's it's trying to setting up the Phantom Menace, and I think people really like the backdrop of the Phantom Menace and the time period before
I love
the
it.
Phantom Menace.
I love it. I can't get enough
it's really
Phantom Menace
interesting.
era stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't read Master and Apprentice yet, but I want to.
I think you're gonna really, both of you are gonna really enjoy.
Which
Darth
is saying
Vader
something
as
because
well.
I
That was,
don't normally read canon.
definitive. Yeah, I think as well. I was gonna say part of the darkness of this sort of era comes from, I think it was Lucy Wilson who said this. Who again, I always have a link to NJO, but it does apply to everything. Is that around that time period when they decided they were going to do the New Jedi Order and prequel era novels, Lucy Wilson said that all the fans that watched Star Wars growing up have grown up, and they're going to be the audience for these books. So we need to make these books for them and not for the kids anymore. So that's why around then, I mean, they still had, like kids' books releasing and stuff, but main Star Wars novels weren't as light as like the early mid-90s novels were. They were a lot darker, and they took themselves a lot more seriously, and I think that was reflected in the comics as well, which he was involved in, if not as much
when
as
we started
the
getting
books.
the good
And I
stuff.
think, and I think that's when it really gets good, because you get the prequel era novels, which at that time was so good. You get,
Except for Rogue
New
Planet.
Jedi Order and stuff. You're going so much darker, but yeah, except for Rogue Planet. I mean, there's always going to be a shit novel in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But I think it's, like I said, it's reflected in the comics too. This story, it's like you said, it's not trying to make you like sympathize for Darth Maul at all. I mean, as much as we're excited for the new show, I think that applies there. That Darth Maul is like fighting the Empire in the new show, and he's not going to be like a hero, but he's going to be more heroic. I'm interested to see if it will be more morally grey, which I think is what we're all a little bit
I think he's
interested
being
in.
set up to be an anti-hero, where in this he's the
Yeah.
protagonist, but he is not doing anything heroic. Well, I guess he's
He is
killing
the
it. He's
villain.
taking out a crime empire, so in one
Yeah,
way he's kind of is, but it's not his intention. His intention isn't
Well,
like,
the thing
oh,
is, I
crime is
guess-
bad, I need to take it out.
What Sidious says to him though as well, I mean, to make it even more evil, I guess, is that he's not supposed to destroy Black Sun, because they still leave enough of it there for them to recuperate. But he just wants
Yeah,
them.
just weaken
Sidious
it.
wants them out of his way
Yeah,
for
because
now. while
Black
he's,
Sun is around for shadows of the Empire, so clearly they're still around doing
it
stuff.
just needs to take out all the lieutenants. Just weaken it dramatically, so that it's
Yeah.
not so
He
much
just
of
doesn't-
a
I think-
thorn in his side.
All to do with his. He mentions like his blockade of Naboo and stuff like that. I think he just wants there to be no one powerful enough to get involved in any of that.
Yeah,
He
well, we
wants
see
that-
them
that stalemate.
threatening a member of the Trade Federation, so obviously that kind of political thing going on is annoying
Yeah.
Sidious. He
I
doesn't
found
want
it
his
pretty
factions fighting
pretty
each
funny
other.
how the Trade Federation come to Black Sun trying to tell
Oh,
them.
yeah, to say the Sith is
They're
there.
just
Yeah.
like, this is not true. Shut up.
Yeah. They're also like, why don't you just go tell the Jedi? And it's like, well, the Jedi won't give me any money. And it was like, oh,
That
well.
was such a good line. He's like, then why wouldn't you tell the Jedi? He's
Yeah.
like, the Jedi don't pay you for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
But
so
it
believable,
also
like-
shows the Trade Federation. Actually, well, we were talking about this last episode. Maybe not, but the Trade Federation went to the Jedi. It could have changed things, but probably not, because they would have had the same thing as the Black Sun, being like, "Nah, you're lying. They've not come back."
Yeah, well, Qui-Gon tried to tell
think they
them
would've
to their
won.
Yeah,
face, and
and
they
even that wasn't
still
enough.
were like, I don't know
They
about
didn't
that.
trust one of their best masters about it.
Yeah,
They
so there's
definitely
no way
wouldn't
they would trust the Trade.
Well,
the Trade Federation.
Yeah.
In the EU, it was just cynicism, but in the Disney canon now, that's also been recontextualized because Kiadi was part of a cover-up with the
I
acolyte.
think
Like
she
that's,
said,
that's
what
the
was
whole
it? They
thing.
said recently that Yoda would have done the cover up. Is what she said very recently. That Yoda would have helped cover it up, which I think takes it to another level. And it's funny as well though, because she says about she said, "Oh, he did it in the Clone Wars." Well, I don't like to think about the Clone Wars TV show, so
Yeah. What I found interested in issue 1 when it starts as well, like, it's how much, I guess we'll learn as we read more of the novel stuff, how much did Maul actually know of Sidious's plan? Because like, he kind of, like, he's immediately saying, like, oh, when will we reveal ourselves to the Jedi? Like, he is in the film. Like, that's, like, the most thing that he's interested in doing. But, like, how does he think
mentioned in
two
the
Sith are
comic
going to
too.
fight thousands of Jedi?
From
Like,
what
that's
I
not good
know,
odds.
He has I think from what I know, he knew
Maybe he
more
thinks he
than,
can.
Dooku did.
Maybe.
I think he told I think Sidious told Maul more than he told Dooku, because in the Revenge of the Sith novel we get actually what Dooku thinks is going to happen, and it's this totally false thing
Yeah.
that Sidious is not planning at all. But I think from what we've seen, I don't know, maybe he.
But if that's the
liked
case,
Maul
it's
more.
weird that Maul is so impatient, seeing as if Maul knows, like, okay, we need a droid army to fight a clone army, or we need some kind of, like, big war to happen to pull the Jedi into it, and that's when we attack. But, like, none of that's really set up at this point. So
I got the idea
it's the
reading
fact
the-
he's so...
Sorry.
Yeah, he's so quick to be like, when will we reveal ourselves? But at the moment, they've just started a blockade, and the Jedi are only sending negotiators.
Based
It's a
on
bit too early.
the dialogue in the comic, it seemed to me that it was trying to portray it as though Maul just really wanted to fight a Jedi.
Yeah,
That's the idea
It is
I got.
definitely, because it's
hates-
straight after his
I think
training,
it's
isn't it?
implied-
He trains against some droids,
think
and he's
it-
immediately like,
I
can
think
we do
it's
it
im-
now?
I think it's also hatred. I think it's implied heavily in the comic that he just hates them. Like when that guy confuses him for a Jedi, and he's furious
Yeah,
and he wants
yeah.
to kill him for it. I think he's just desperate to eradicate them because he despises them.
And also to prove himself, I guess. Yeah, like what you were saying, Evan. Like, I think maybe he does think he can take on the Jedi. Like, he's trained so hard.
I mean, he could do backflips
not
and somersaults
actually-
and stuff.
It's true.
Yeah.
If I could
think
do
it's
that,
clear as
I would
well
think
he's
I could
having-
take on the Jedi.
Yeah.
I think it's clear as well he's having so much fun in this story, because I feel like I get the impression he doesn't get out much. Do you know what I mean? Like he doesn't get to go out.
It does seem
and
like
fight
he is
people.
like, it's like Force Unleashed, right? He just trains. Like, that's it. He's like only training. And Sidious is fine. Like, I have a mission for you, and he's like, yes, give me
Yeah.
something to do.
Yeah, that's what
that
I think.
I bet that's probably part of the thing. So
That's part of it. Yeah.
there is something else in issue 1 that has stood out to me that I really wanted to bring up. In issue 1, near the very end, we see Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, which is cool, right? But there's something that stood out to me about this. It's that Qui-Gon senses Darth Maul for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Now that got me thinking, because we're supposed to be given the idea that Sidious is using the dark side to put like a shroud over the Jedi Temple and the Jedi, where they do not feel the presence
This might
of
be
the dark
before
side.
that.
You think so? Because
Maybe he has to do that.
I
Maybe he
think,
does that in response to this. Like, maybe after Maul's
think it's
defeated, he's
in-
like, I need to change my tact. I need to, like, be more powerful than I was trying to be beforehand.
I don't remember where it is exactly, like when it happens, but I'm pretty certain it's in the Plagueis novel. Like I feel like he does it with Plagueis or something like that. I know it's been a while since I've read it, but I feel like he,
dark magic.
That
Maybe it
secret
sets
secret
up, like,
thing.
how full of hatred Maul is, that even with that shroud, Qui-Gon could still sense him. Because there's a like a mind reader in issue 3 or 4, and when he reads Maul's mind, like his brain
Yeah,
essentially
it's
melts.
over.
Yeah, like you can see
was
like his
funny.
nose like starts bleeding, and like his eyes go white. Like he literally is so dark in Maul's head that he can't take it.
That's classic early 2000s
think,
writing right there.
Yeah, that's early 2000 Edge. Like this guy's so evil. I can't even like
Can't even
take the
enter
visions
his
I've seen.
mind.
Yeah.
I think part of it is probably as well something that was more an EU thing than anything else, which it does come from the New Jedi Order, but gets used all over. Is Jedi. The Jedi don't learn it for a long time, but the Sith have known it for a long, long time, hiding their presence in the Force, which is, it's never said in canon or in the films or anything, but that's the official explanation for how Sidious goes unnoticed, is that he can not be sensed by Jedi. He manages to make himself seem like a normal person who doesn't use the Force, and he can go even further to be completely blank in the Force, and that's what Verger teaches Jason, and then all of the Jedi learn it in the New Jedi Order, and that's a thing going forward that they can use. But I think
It'd
that
be
was
really
so
helpful
unknown to the
doing the
Jedi.
whole Vader chasing them all down kind of thing.
I know none of them knew
Yeah.
it, but I think maybe the only thing I could suggest is
It's
maybe
true, Scott's
Sidious
thinker.
didn't teach Maul it.
2000s
Maybe Maul wasn't taught that by Sidious. Although that would
Well, I
be quite
did wonder
practical.
in issue 2 if Maul did know it, because many of the assassins that work for the Black Sun seem to be force sensitive to some degree. Like one is from Dathomir, and there's a one who has two lightsaber adjacent weapons. We were discussing this before the show. We're not sure if they are lightsabers, but it's a character called Sinya who has two purple blades. They look like the hilts look like blaster pistols, but then coming out of them is like a purple blade that she can deflect a lightsaber with. She can't sense that Maul is anything. She says like, "Oh, this is just a petty assassin. There's nothing to worry about." But the fact that her boss, who is also like a British coded Sebulba, I think the species called like a Dug or something like that. But he's like, imagine Sebulba but with like a monocle, and he's like he's one of the lieutenants that work for the Black Sun. But he asks Sinya like, "Oh, what do you think?" So maybe he is asking Sinya if Sinya has the Force, like, "Oh, what do you think of this guy? Is he anything special?" And she says like, "Oh no, this guy's just an assassin. There's nothing special about him." So I have a note saying like, is this either indicating that Maul himself is fairly weak in the Force, because we didn't see him use that many powers in the media until Clone Wars, or he's good at masking his power. So it could be that he does know how to mask it, or she's just not Force sensitive.
I think part of it as well is I think they make a thing out of someone does sense him at some point, and they say that he's not a Jedi, but like they don't know what he is or something like that.
Yeah, that's in
I think
issue 3, I think. Or issue 4. There's like another. This one's like definitely a
It's
Force sensitive person.
Yeah, it's the one. Is it the one he fights towards the end, the like definitely
Yeah.
type
Mhm.
person? Yeah, I think maybe it's partly like that they don't know what Sith feel like in the Force because it has been so long. Since
Yeah.
I hadn't
they've
thought
been
about it
around
like
that they're
that. That's
not sure what
interesting.
they're
I
like.
wonder.
Just because
what
that
that
one
would be
character
like.
says, not Jedi, but like they're not sure what it is. I think
Yeah, what they don't know,
The Sith
yeah.
definitely feel different because of the the hatred and the anger and all of that. They probably feel, and the darkness, because they always feel that darkness. I think they probably feel different to the Jedi, and that's why they didn't know what it was.
I don't think we've ever gotten anything that breaks down the way different things feel in the Force, because like obviously they can feel it when another Jedi dies, even if it's across the galaxy, if they're like looking for it, I guess. But so if you're like a Jedi and you fall to the dark side, would you feel different in the Force than a Sith? Because the Sith is an ideology. It's a series of like even when that's something Maul said. He's like Sith, like being a Sith is different. Like it's not you're a witch sister of Dathomir, but the Sith have that's something Maul even said. He's like the Sith. This is a different ballpark because they have the ideology, the code, and stuff. So I wonder if that level of like discipline and dogmatic loyalty to like that idea makes them feel a specific type of way in the Force.
I would say.
Yeah,
probably
I
yes,
guess we
because
know the
the,
dark side is power, but you're right in like how do the Sith feel? Sorry, Gabe, go ahead.
I was going to say they probably would feel more different because a dark Jedi who is led by hatred doesn't have the like practiced hatred that a Sith does. That's the same way like Darth Vader is like consumed by it, and that's all they are, and it's all they feel, and that becomes them. I think that would feel quite different to a dark Jedi who just does the bad thing occasionally, and isn't as wrapped up in it all the time, consciously as well. I think that's probably what would make them feel quite different. And I think you're probably right, all the discipline. I think like a Dark Jedi, for example, might not be as disciplined as the Jedi or the Sith, but the Sith are almost just as disciplined as the Jedi, which is probably what makes them so, equals to each other.
Well,
They're
even if
just
they
disciplined
real
and like
direction.
constantly dwelling in like the hatred and the thoughts that make them feel that certain way.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
But
Even if the Jedi was disciplined, like if a Jedi fell to the dark side, it's such a different kind of discipline. It's like somebody who's really disciplined in going to the gym. That's not the same as somebody who's disciplined in like MMA fighting. They're totally different types of discipline. So I wonder if that long term devotion to hatred makes you feel a certain way, where the Jedi are like, I don't even know what that is that I'm feeling. That is insane.
maybe one of the reasons why Padme has to die for Anakin to truly become Sith, because otherwise he will have that thing where like he's a Jedi who does dark things, but if you take out Padme, he has nothing else to live for and he's full of hate, then he will constantly be able to easily like fall into that Sith dogma of always feeling those dreadful thoughts all the time.
Yeah, and another thing actually, so throughout the Jedi obviously deal with like pirates and criminals and stuff a lot. So, but bad people, people who are willing to do bad things. But in keeping with this idea of the severity of how much the Sith fall into the dark side, how much they let it consume them, someone who's just trying to do something or get their way and does a bad thing to do it probably also feels very different from someone who just loves to be evil, loves to kill things and accumulate power, not even just to have it, but just for the sake of accumulating it.
They're the kind of people who just love rage baiting. Like that's they get like there's a pleasure in it, in being evil. You know, I
Rage
think
baiting is the true dark side.
Yeah, Maul, I don't think feels bad about the things he does. You know, I think he's very satisfied in his approaches to his problems and how he solves them. I think, there's definitely a pleasure that they decide for it. They have to be somewhat, like we were saying before, he's not sadistic, but he must be to a point. He's not like going out of his way to hurt people beyond what is necessary, but there is an enjoyment in his job.
I think it's more satisfaction of doing, his job and doing things right. It's not like he's, going out thrill seeking to kill people or torture people or stuff like that. But I think he finds a certain satisfaction in, defeating someone and, getting closer to the ultimate goal and, what he desperately wants, which is for the Sith to, reveal themselves and to kill the Jedi. I think he's just that, we're one step closer, and I think that's really satisfying.
I think
for
the
him.
Terminator is a very good analogy for him, because I don't think Maul would have been very emotional in taking out the younglings if Sidious said he had to do it. I think he'd be very much like on business, being like, yeah, this is just something I have to do. I don't think it would have killed him inside as much as it hurt Anakin.
This iteration of Maul, perhaps, but I wonder, because I feel like in the Clone Wars, he after his betrayal and he loses to Obi-Wan and then he gets
he's had like an emotional awakening, hasn't he, coming into the
and then
new
his
Maul.
brother finds him, and then Sidious kills his brother, and he like is obviously emotionally upset about that. So I wonder if by the time of Shadow Lord, like we were saying earlier, he's not a bad guy anymore. Now he's more of like
Well, I think Sam Witwer said something about how he's going to reflect on how he treated his brother in the show and feel like he almost treated him too harshly, and maybe he shouldn't have treated him like a Sith apprentice. I feel like he's had to sort of shake off his Sith history to become, something different. I think that's what he's had to. I'm interested to see how different he'll be in that show. He still ends up an extremely hateful person because he sacrifices everything.
It goes
to
into
have
Rebels,
one fight
doesn't
with Obi-Wan.
Guys, this is a little bit off topic, but I think I was like a preteen when they introduced Darth Maul's brother. Well, first off, I always fucking hated that they brought Darth Maul back. I've gotten over it and accepted it, but the fact that his death in The Phantom Menace is so good, the fact that they brought him back because of fanfare always pissed me off, even way before Disney bought it. But when I heard that Darth Maul had a brother and his name was Savage Opress, it's Savage Opress, but I think something clicked in me where it's like, haha, funny glup shitto names to this sucks, I don't want anything to do with it. For some reason I could handle Ben Quatanaros, but
it was the inevitable like conclusion of like when you look at like Sidious and Maul and like all these names, Tyrannus. It was inevitably we would get to the point where like all trying to hide these words has gone, and it will just be something as simple as that. And I'm waiting until it's literally just bad man, and somehow they're gonna pronounce it differently.
I think it's usually what I think there's something clever, or at least something more effective in when they like take a word like that, but use it from another language. I think that usually makes it okay, and I think that's done every now and then.
Like the theory that like Vader is father, that kind of thing, even if that's not intentional.
It's definitely not.
Probably accidental.
It's because it's probably just it's in Vader. I'm pretty sure.
Insidious and in Vader.
Wasn't planned.
Vader, yeah.
So there was it almost what you said. I think almost culminated because in an interview with the Force Unleashed team, George Lucas came to the studio and had a meeting with them where they like workshopped what it would look like for Darth Vader's secret Sith apprentice. And so they're like, okay, well, he should have maybe a Darth name. What should he be called? And they said George Lucas actually I'm pretty sure this is what it was. It was something like this.
Darth Icky, isn't it?
Darth Nasty.
Darth Nasty.
Darth Nasty.
Yeah.
And he said they were all like waiting for him to say he was kidding, but he didn't. And it's like, I don't know if he actually was or not, but it was getting to that point. But something I'll say is my dad used to kind of make fun of that. He was like Darth Vader, Darth Sidious. He liked Star Wars, but he thought that was funny. But I always was able to reconcile with it because that's not their names. Those are titles. They're given.
But this was actually his name. Yeah,
his actual name was Savage Oppressed. That's not his Darth title. Because if I was going to actually like submit myself and be like, okay, I'm going to be killing people mercilessly. I'm a bad guy now. At least I'm going to have a cool bad guy name. Call me Darth fucking Vader. It's cringy. But if I'm going to be killing people, you can cringe before you die kind of thing. It's not his title. It's his name.
Have we actually found what Maul's name is? Is it like... Because presumably his last name is also Oppress. Is it Maul Oppress?
There's no way. No, because Sidious would have...
No, because, he would have picked his first name for Maul.
Yeah, Sidious...
It's going to be something Oppress.
Something like
never been
Beastly.
Told of his name before or anything.
Savage and Beastly Oppress.
This probably is something like that, actually. I hope they need to reveal it in Shadowlord now, what his name.
I was going to say the opposite. I was going to say I hope they never fucking reveal it. I don't want to know.
I don't want them to, but I think it'll be funny if they did.
We need to have a list, like a segment next episode that just suggests 10 names similar to Savage that it could be.
Yeah.
Oppress.
What did you think of the... I was confused because I forgot that the Kiffer were a race, but there's a guy in this who looks exactly like Quinlan Vos. The only difference is his face tattoo doesn't go all the way. So it's like it looks like those nose strips that like influencers use now to go to sleep. He's just got like a golden nose strip on. It doesn't go like to the end of his face like Quinlan. But I was really confused when he cropped up because I thought it was Quinlan, and I was like, I didn't think there would be a crossover at this point. But then obviously it's not because he dies quite fast.
I think part of it is, as much as I was praising the art earlier, I think some artists who do Star Wars often fall to the same issue of drawing different species all as exactly the same. Often they look different. I mean, oh my god, as a NJO fan, the Yuzhen Vong have some of the worst art ever, where they all look identical and they all look nothing like they're described as in the books. They're all supposed to be different, and I think that applies here. I don't think the Quinlan Vos species are all all the men are supposed to look like him.
Yeah, like why do they all have dreads? Like it's just they need to have it. Yeah,
it was like the Phantom Menace had only been out for a couple months at this point, and arguably maybe not had even released when this was being drawn. So the prequel era films like permanently shifted the way Star Wars looked. And so it's possible that whoever was drawing it was just like looking for alien references.
Yeah, and that's what you found.
They
snuck in the demon from New Hope as well.
At least,
that's so funny.
At least the writer will have been able to have seen. I imagine the writer will have been able to see the film because I know, like some of the NGO writers were allowed to see the Phantom Menace, even though
he would have definitely been included at least in seeing like the concept art. If you'd seen the making of, they have a concept art on the wall. I'm sure they were probably bringing in some members of the Legends team, like the expanded universe team, to come look at like what's going on, so they know beforehand.
Like I said, for some reason, some NJO authors got to see the Phantom Menace, but like I said, that has nothing to do with the books at all. I imagine they just that
might just be more for like a thank you as well. Yeah, like a thank you for like all their hard work and keeping the brand alive.
Yeah, they did often get stuff like that. Yeah.
But I mean, I really liked this series for what it is. I feel like it's one of those ones like, if I'm suggesting it to people, like just read it, because like you'll read issue 1 being like, okay, what am I getting into, and you'll scroll down, like if you're reading it digitally, like maybe 3 times, and it'll end and you'll be like, oh, okay, clearly I can get through this really fast. I was so surprised
it's
when I
easy,
got through that first issue.
There,
It's one of those ones, like if you've got a spare 20 minutes, you can do it.
there is something
I
very
agree.
relieving about that, actually, as someone
Yeah.
who is
Yeah.
busy
It's
all
so
the
easy to
time.
get into.
Whenever I start reading something, and this goes for games, movies, anything, whenever I start to try to get invested and I realize it's going to take me the next 3 hours before it even starts, I just opt out a lot of times. So I love it when media is like, you're here, let's go, let's get it done, and doesn't waste your time. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I loved this. I would love to see more of it, but not more of this story. I would love to see more stuff in this vein, atmosphere, and theme. But I'm glad that this was only 4 issues. That was all it needed to be, and it slapped.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't need to drag this out. It wouldn't have worked.
I feel
What
like
they're
as
going
well,
with
they didn't
here.
even say like, oh, let's do a 6-issue series, let's do a 12-issue series, let's do a run. They just thought, we've got this story. How long does it last? Probably about 4 issues. Done. Like, I don't feel like they were
anybody
set
know-
an amount of
Oh yeah, there's no
time.
padding. The pacing is fast paced the entire time. There really is no padding at all.
In a great way.
Yeah, in a good way. There's always something happening. The only bit like you don't need is maybe the first 3 pages of issue 2, because it's just like seeing the Black Sun have like a little gunfight kind of thing. They don't know what's going on, and then like Darth Maul like shows himself. Like that's the only bit like you could probably do without, honestly. But otherwise, it's 3 pages out of like maybe 30 pages that are
Yeah.
not necessary.
Yeah.
So that's
I
pretty
think
good
it's paced
going.
very well.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure out how
Everything. I feel like everything at
close-
least has somewhat of purpose.
Mhm.
I thought that Shadowhunter released closer to this comic series than it did, but they were close to a year apart. I thought that they were like simultaneous almost, but Darth Megatron,
I'm pretty certain
Darth
all
Adversary.
of this stuff. I think all of this stuff gets mentioned in Darth Plagueis. Like all of this stuff crops up in it, and Shadowhunter and Cloak of Deception and loads of stuff comes up in that book, which I think why we'd all I've read it before and I really enjoyed it, but I think you two would definitely really enjoy Darth
That's because
Plagueis.
Lucino
It's just
cared
legit.
and wrote
Yeah,
well.
he well when he got hired for NJO, he read every single Star Wars book that had been released up until that point before starting on the series. He knows his stuff, and he what I love about him is he manages to like link to all the different stories going off that other people are writing without it feeling like name dropping or fan service. I don't know how he does it, but he just manages to do these big epic stories with all this lore, and it feels so natural and perfect. I can't think of anyone else that does it quite like he does.
Can't think of
Which is why
anyone
he's
else
probably
that
my
does
favorite
it
Star
at
Wars
all.
author. Like, yeah,
When I was a kid,
there's an author.
I thought stuff like that would be standard operating procedure. As a kid, I thought if you got hired to work in a universe, the first thing you'd be expected to do is research and learn about the universe. But it turns out it's the fucking opposite. Nobody does that. People will get hired to work on an IP and like read a summary on Wikipedia and be like, I get it.
They sometimes look for people who have no previous experience in the universe,
Yeah.
so that they can have a complete outsider's
know.
perspective.
And it never works,
sometimes
and
they'll
they
go for
keep
people
doing
Nope.
it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll go for people that don't like it. What was it where they did that?
They've done that
there was some
several times.
Game or something like that.
I think they did that with
Yeah.
Halo, the Halo series.
Yeah, that was it. Halo. Yeah, when they designed Halo 4 for people that don't like Halo.
Yeah. They just made like a Call of Duty clone essentially, and then obviously
Yeah.
it didn't attract the Halo fans, and the Call of Duty players played it for like a month until Call of Duty came out, and then they were gone. So what was the point?
Well,
Yeah,
they-
that sucked. As
yeah,
someone who loved
Halo
Call of
fans
Duty
that-
and Halo, that sucked.
Yeah.
I know a lot of Halo fans that like didn't like Call of Duty just went back to playing like Halo Reach and just like
Halo Reach
Didn't bother
outlived
with
Halo
Halo
4 for a while.
yeah.
Because I was big on the 360 in that era, and my go-to games were Reach, Black Ops, then Reach and Modern Warfare 3. And then when Halo 4 came out, I was big on Halo 4 for like 2 months, but then I went back to Reach. Because it's
Yeah.
better.
I was saying, like a
Yeah.
month or 2 months. When Black Ops 2 came out, I was just like, I'm not going to play Halo 4 anymore. I was always ODST kind of guy.
Oh,
Like
ODST is
basically
great.
like Halo 3
But
multiplayer.
it didn't
but,
have any competitive.
See,
though.
as young as I was in on that period. That was like when I came into like gaming, and I was obsessed with it. That time. I mean, that was probably why I wasn't a Halo fan though, because when I joined in, it was Halo 4, And
Oh,
I
what a
played a
time.
bit of it, but I
I
wasn't,
like Halo 4's
luckily, when I was
campaign,
young,
by the way.
The
which is
campaign
a
was
alright,
popular
yeah.
opinion.
I think it's decent. It's not like great, but I think it's pretty good.
I think
Obviously,
like
when I was a kid, yeah.
graphically, it really impressed me for the 360. That was pushing that
Oh,
console
yeah.
to the absolute
I think
limit.
it
It's
still
why you
looks-
had to
it still
install
looks
it. It had an
pretty good.
install disc and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
back
I mean,
in the
you
day.
could.
Yeah.
I feel like you could convince some people it was an Xbox One game now. I feel like some people would believe that.
It
Yeah.
looked
So good.
shockingly good. It's probably in the top 5 best-looking 360 titles, I would say. It
Yeah.
is a shockingly
like,
good-looking game.
We mentioned Black Ops. I always felt like even when I was a kid that I love Black Ops 2, but I feel like it looked worse graphically than Black Ops 1. Like it felt like to me like a step backwards.
I couldn't resonate with Black Ops 2 for some reason. I was excited when I bought it because I was such a
Black,
big fan
yeah,
of the
Black
original
Ops 2 is when I
Ops.
dropped off. It didn't resonate with me either.
That's
Yeah, Black
exactly
Ops
what
1
Black Ops 2 is
had
probably-
an art style, but like it was still realistic, but it was almost an exaggerated Vietnam era, kind of like a Vietnam era film, you know? It was
It
a little
had
bit exaggerated in some ways.
Yeah.
all of
Overly
the
gory,
like
even
the,
though war is
Ultra-
gory, but
Yeah, the MK
I
Ultra
love the
brainwashing stuff.
conspiracy theories stuff like that Black Ops 1 does. I love how it plays with that, and it has like all the skepticism.
I really liked
the
Black
alien
Ops
and
when I
stuff.
played it back in the day because of all those reasons, but I didn't realize how, because we had a bunch of other similar stuff. I didn't realize that we were like at the end of that and games were going to permanently shift and we weren't going to get anything even close to that ever again. Because looking back, I actually think Black Ops is when the series peaked. I know this is a Star Wars podcast, but
yeah.
yeah.
But that's when every
I,
series peaked.
Well-
I mean, tying it to Star Wars, that's when Force Unleashed 1 came out, and I mean that was amazing. Like gameplay wise, story wise. I mean, story wise, it was a little bit. It was, you know, I would say it was like a 7 out of 10. It's not the greatest thing ever. It's peak in terms of like how, like
I think
the aura
you could
forming in it, but
compare-
it's not amazing. But
think
then
you
you get
could
to like
compare-
Force Unleashed 2, and that's like when Black Ops 2 comes out. Like there's like a decline in gaming within like a few years.
Yeah. Well,
Halo reached
I
the
will
floor.
say this. I'll say these two things though. Obviously, I'm different here. Black Ops 2 is my favorite Call of Duty game, full stop. But only because it's like it's a balance.
Can do
for me, 'cause
Republic
I think Black Ops
Commando
1
Naval in
has
future.
the best campaign. That's my favorite campaign in Call of Duty. Black Ops 2 has my favorite multiplayer, and then Black Ops 3 has my favorite zombies. So it's like
Yeah, Black Ops 3 Zombies was the only reason to
Yeah.
play Black Ops 3.
shout
Yeah,
out
it was the only reason to play Call
Assassin
of Duty back then.
Squad 10 for the £2, much appreciated.
Oh, thank you.
We have talked about doing the Republic Commando books and game in the future.
Yes.
They are on the radar. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
I was just
They'll-
gonna s-
I don't know how
was
soon
gonna
we're
say,
gonna do
This
it, but
this
we're gonna do
this year, I think we can pretty confidently say
This year.
Yeah,
That's good.
this year. Yeah.
The plan will be, we're all probably at least gonna play the game and read like the first book maybe, and that'll be,
And that's an
what we
episode,
talk
yeah, at
about.
least.
The game
yeah.
is
Yeah.
worth its own episode, but
True, yeah.
We'll slide the novel in there probably.
I was gonna add, we should probably do an episode about the Force Unleashed at some point. I'm surprised we haven't
Yeah.
said that yet, honestly.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Or
It's
somebody
another
actually
one of
asked
those
about that on
ones
a
where
comment.
you'd probably want to tie the book in as well. Like a
Yeah,
almost
that-
like a
Yeah, I
dual,
would like to
dual
read
episode.
because that was technically a
I will say,
multimedia project.
Oh, I did.
It's considered-
What because of the book? Just because but it only has the book in the game, right?
It had a
Is there
it
anything
had a
else?
Comic
graphic
as well,
novel as
isn't
well.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
you
it
can look
does.
this up. It's considered the third or fourth, technically the fourth.
Maybe we
multimedia
approach it from that angle then.
That's what I
as
was
the,
thinking we were gonna
yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Is
Well,
we were gonna.
it's funny. There's some like I find it really funny how there's two Clone Wars multimedia projects. There's the Clone Wars multimedia project, and then there's the Clone Wars multimedia.
Yeah, there's the
project.
good one and the bad one.
Yeah.
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 Although I have heard the Clone Wars, like the other show, the books related to that, there was only a few of them. I've heard they're actually quite good and like more related to like the EU. Like I've heard like the novelization of the film tries to like integrate some EU aspects because at the time they were still trying to make the cartoon work with the rest of the Clone Wars, which obviously they gave up not long later.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, obviously. But
Yeah, they should have never given up on that.
They should have never released that film either.
That film is
I know.
embarrassing.
I will say,
I
I will
am
say so.
shocked
That's
that
the
that
only.
happened.
I have watched all the other Star Wars films. I have started that and I've never been able to finish it.
I don't
just
even,
can't
I don't
finish
count it as a film. I just watch it's 4 episodes spliced together. Just see it as that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even count it as one of the movies. It was a complete like I see it was a cash grab by Lucas. I mean, I know he wanted to bring more eyes onto the show, and that was ostensibly the reason. But it just felt like he thought, oh, these are good enough. We could put them in cinemas.
Yeah.
And then they did.
Yeah, that movie is we do a whole episode on that movie. It would just be a really negative episode, and we'd have to.
I'll have to watch it for when I will though.
Is the little baby Jabba the Hutt in that? Isn't he the one in the new
Yes.
film
Yes,
coming up, Rotter?
I was about to say that
he's like the jacked one in the arena.
They said to themselves, "The Mandalorian and Grogu, Star Wars' big theatrical return. Let's tie it to a different Star Wars project. Let's do that Clone Wars movie everybody fucking hated." Which part?
It does.
Let's do the baby slug everybody fucking hated.
You know, we were talking about how Favreau probably fell out of love with the Mandalorian because more Filoni stuff was brought in. That's the epitome of that. And it's like, who is one of the bad guys in your film gonna be? Oh, it's this little baby from Filoni's first Clone Wars project. We're bringing him in.
Yeah, Favreau probably just said, "I'm fucking done with this."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it shows as well that fans of the Clone Wars show generally hate the film. I think that it shows that. You know, fans
no one's
of
excited
that show,
to see Rotter the Hutt come back.
Nobody likes that film really, from what I know. I mean, I'm sure there's one or two people, but it's like
There's some stuff in that film that I do think is pretty cool, but it's just like a few aura farming moments, like the I think they're called AATs, but they like get to a wall and then they start like attaching and climbing up a wall vertically. That was fire. Seeing walkers like climbing up a wall vertically. The lightsaber fight between, was it Anakin and Dooku on Tatooine? That can't be right, can it? I think it might have been.
I think that is. I've not seen the film, but I feel like I have seen
it. It is Dooku and Anakin. Yeah, I don't know if it's Tatooine, but yeah, it's when Dooku straight up tries to kill like the Rotter the Hutt. Like he slices the bag in half, and it's like 2 rocks in it, and he looks so defeated. He looks like so like, why would Anakin do this to me? Why would he put a rock in the bag?
Yeah, that's right.
That's the look on his face.
Yeah. That does.
It also means, I was just thinking that with the Clone Wars, how, you know, Anakin says like, oh, since the last time we met, my powers have doubled. But he meets them like every couple of weeks in the Clone Wars. So like, is he just exponentially doubling like every time?
He doubled by a lot in such a short period.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's a different character.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's I think part of it was, I remember hearing something about how at the start of the show they didn't want him fighting that much. So like we had the fight in that film, and then you don't see him fight for ages, and like they were supposed to not encounter each other much, but then they decided just to drop it and just have them fight a lot to make it more entertaining for kids.
I've heard that.
And I think a part of that again is you know, they wanted Anakin and Obi-Wan to be the leads and to have, you know, Ahsoka, you know the apprentice to them. Unlike, you know, as we've spoken about, what makes the Republic comics so strong is that you see all of the Clone Wars happen, and Anakin and Obi-Wan aren't like the main characters. They show up here and then, and you have a few arcs about them, and sometimes it's just Anakin, or sometimes it's just.
And they're not together
either.
Whole
stories with you get whole stories of other people. You see Anakin as a knight really late on his own.
Yeah. You don't even see Obi-Wan do anything cool. I only remember from Obi-Wan is him sitting in that really rainy planet, like just they were waiting for months, doing some siege or something. You know, that's all I remember, in the original Clone Wars series. But that worked for like General Obi-Wan. You know, he doesn't have to be aura farming. He's just there leading his troops.
We need aura farming to come back in Star Wars. I think that's one of the big problems with the Mandalorian and Grogu and with Star Wars Starfighter is like, who's gonna aura farm? None of these like the Mandalorian can kind of do it, but not like
the best Grogu's gonna do is like maybe force push someone, and it's gonna be like, oh, look how strong he is, but like that's nothing.
And also they've been doing that for 3 seasons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I wonder when he's gonna.
I mean, Rotter the Hutt is currently the aura farmer, right? He's there flexing in the arena.
I can't believe that's a real movie. Star Wars is. We haven't even said anything about the Maul comic in a while. Well, we covered it. It was 4 issues.
We kind of covered it. It was. We covered it longer than the actual comic was. Like we talked about it for minutes. Like that's longer than it takes to read it. You probably could have read
the whole thing before we stopped talking about it.
Yeah. Well, I think I mentioned the characterizations were like compared to Dark Empire, they were very like on point for how you see them in the movies. Like Obi-Wan, he has like one line, and they're like, "What does this mean, Master?" But that's literally how it is. His character in the Phantom Menace was just going to Qui-Gon, being like, "What does this mean?" Like he just like he's in pure like learning mode.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's like fully that's who he is in the Phantom Menace, and that's who he is in this. Like Qui-Gon's like, oh, I sensed something, and then Obi-Wan's immediately like, what does it mean? Teach me. I
Should we
must
do
know
an
everything.
Should we do an episode on the Xbox Obi-Wan game?
Oh God.
God,
That's
I
one of
really
my
want
most
Star
popular
Wars.
videos.
Republic Commando definitely first before we get to that.
Maybe leave that till 2029.
Yeah.
Mando
I have
could
watched a whole video on it.
Mando could
Yeah.
aura farm in season 1, then you realized he's a goober who only wins because of literal plot armor. Yeah, it's because the show just started getting worse and worse. Disney realized they had something cool and they could not abide it. That must be really hard to be so self-sabotaging, being like, nothing cool ever.
Yeah. It's a shame. I know. I was surprised actually in this issue in the comics we do actually see Maul use Force powers, because I don't think we saw that in the Phantom Menace that I can really remember. Like he's doing his flips and stuff. That's all Force
No,
assisted.
he uses the Force to grab a
When he
thing
lifts the...
Oh, okay.
Throw it at the door.
So he's got
to open the
it.
door.
So they have kind of, I guess they've stuck with that. Like he does a Force stroke in this, so he's got one extra power in his retinue. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much what he does in this. He Force grabs a blaster and then headshots someone at point blank. Like that's pretty metal. Like that fight, like if he slices a guy's hand off, the blaster goes for the air. He grabs the blaster with the Force and then like point blank headshots someone.
That was
Like
pretty
that's
cool.
all in
Read
like
that
3
back,
panels.
'cause I wasn't sure what had happened. I had to read that
Yeah,
again.
yeah. I also thought like who shot this guy in the head, but like no, it's more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought somebody shot him, and I was thinking, why
Yeah.
are they shooting him? And
Yeah.
I thought, wait, did he use the Force to make them shoot him? And then I had to go back and read it. Think,
That's
oh,
how you know
obviously
you're
he picked it
portraying a
up.
Jedi right, when you have to stop and be like, what just happened? And like go and
Yeah,
reread it.
it happens.
Yeah.
So it literally happens so fast in the comic, you actually miss it.
It's like Lucas having to slow down the Duel of the Fates because they're moving
Yeah,
too
yeah.
fast for us to see.
Apparently, they had to do that in the Obi-Wan show as well. I wasn't aware of. But like not in camera. They didn't slow it down after filming it. They told them to slow it down during the training segment.
Those actors just go too hard. They just go
Yeah.
too hard.
Yeah,
Dude,
they do.
bringing up the fact that they moved so fast they had to be slowed down in the Phantom Menace is like bringing up Aragorn kicking the thing and breaking his foot. It's that thing that
It is.
It's like
yeah, it's the most
impulsive.
well-known thing, isn't it?
yeah, you're just
Yeah.
sitting there and you're watching it and you're like trying not to bring it up.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like when someone brings that up, if you see it like on a YouTube short, the Aragon one especially, like all the comments are like, "We know, you don't have to
Yeah.
say it."
Anytime, it's always each film I feel like has a fact like that, doesn't it? Like every single film.
Well, the Phantom Menace again is well, like, oh, there's actually more. There's more model work in the Phantom
more
Menace than there is in the entire original trilogy.
Okay, but that I feel like that one is kind of justified because for
Yeah,
years
that's
people were
like a
too
new,
CG.
well-known one. I feel like until like 10 years ago, that was like no one would have said agreed with that. But like
Yeah.
since like 10 years or so, it's become like the new, well-known thing.
People having to hear that over and over again is well deserved after what we've been having to hear from people who didn't like the prequels about stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that is something I'm okay with getting repeated indefinitely.
Yeah.
Because like they should have used more models, bro.
Yeah, they use loads. They should have used better. Just there was a scene I saw. I can't remember. I saw it on a video somewhere criticizing Dooku on the speeder in episode 2, and he looks so confused. And it's like maybe they should have told Christopher Lee what he's looking at doing
I
that,
think they
because he's
should
like
have,
on this speeder on the desert planet with the bugs, the Geonosis, and
Yeah.
he's just looking around like
I
so
think when,
quizzically, like what am I looking at? Like what's
When
going on?
Hayden shows up in Return of the Jedi, they should have told him what he was doing, because
Yeah.
he doesn't look right.
He
at
looks
all.
like he's there for a
He-
photo op. Like I don't think he knows. Like,
He
what
was.
scene is being...
I think he looks
Yeah.
angry. He looks angry. He looks like he's like looking at Luke like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. Like, he doesn't look like
Yeah.
he's like
Luke did
pleased.
just burn his
He looks
body.
really pissed off.
Yeah.
I
The same
imagine
with Ian
he's
McDermott,
desperate,
I'm
my
sure
body.
could have brought even more gravitas to that Empire Strikes Back scene, like the first hologram scene. If they told him, "Hey, this is the first time people are gonna see you on screen," like, you know, I guess by make it a bit more stronger than just like reading the lines.
Yeah.
There's a
but-
lot of that with like all the original trilogy tweaks. I mean, the same with like Tamura Morrison
think
would
as-
probably could have done an even more like aggressive job with Boba Fett if he was told beforehand, like, "Hey, try and make it sound a little bit more like the original Boba Fett."
Yeah, I
I think
also
as well for me, an issue I have with Sidious. It's weird. I'm much like I find the original episode like interesting, but of course I love seeing Ian McDiarmid in the film. Just the problem for me is that he doesn't look anything like he does in the original trilogy. He just
it's
is
the Revenge of the Sith
Sith
makeup.
Sidious. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fan edit out there where someone made him look like Return of the Jedi Sidious, and it looks fantastic. And it looks amazing. And that's what I prefer to see, because I think it should be Ian McDiarmid, but it stands out a bit weird.
You do get a
it's
sense that all of these things were done like. Lucas probably approached them at the end of the filming day, being like, "Hey, let's do quickly this bit as well for the original trilogy."
I was about to say,
it does it.
I know,
for these actors,
it's pretty rushed because I know they almost considered putting Mara in Return of the Jedi because it's well known that she was undercover in Jabba's palace. But it's in the audio drama adaptation. She's in it and she talks to C-3PO undercover and asks about Luke.
To be fair, they changed Jabba's palace so dramatically. They could have snuck her in as like a character in the background.
They got the Outrider in Episode 4.
Yeah, true.
Going back to those bringing actors in, like whenever there's such a difference between getting involved in a project and being a part of it and like kind of feeling it out that affects your performance between coming in and just like shooting a one scene and then leaving. Like it's such a difference, because I've done some voice work for like the Spider-Man stuff I've sent you, and when I listen back to those, my performance near the beginning is so much different from my performance in the middle and the end, because I had enough time with it where I started to like feel more natural with it. So
yeah, you got into the character by the end.
I can't imagine.
Well, I think that's
I get that with my voiceovers as well.
Tamora
you feel
just
more
comes
confident in what you're saying by the end.
He says the lines and he has to leave. Like, of course, it's not going to be as strong as it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
I think an interesting case like that with what you're talking about, which I think it's interesting how they did it, was when Matt Smith played the Doctor. They had him start with different episodes before doing his first episode, so that his first episode, his performance would be more impactful. Which I think that's quite a clever thing to do.
He would have all developed some of his character quirks straight away, so he's not actually making them up on the fly. He is already got a character in mind. Yeah.
That was a smart
very
move.
good way to do it.
As for Christopher Lee on the speeder, just in general, I think Attack of the Clones is the roughest in terms of editing and oversight and details. Attack of the Clones is the roughest. I don't know what was going on because the Phantom Menace, I think George was building and building and building and building, so it was a smoother process. And I think that Revenge of the Sith had the benefits.
It was probably the reaction to the criticism. Attack of the Clones probably changed the most dramatically out of those films. I mean, it was probably going to be a bigger part for, I can't remember his name, and I'm glad I can't, but the annoying character from Phantom Menace, I can't believe I can't remember his name, Jar Jar. I had Jab, and I was like, it's not Jab.
Could be. That's Jar Jar's brother. Jab.
But like, Jar Jar probably did play a bigger role. But like, I don't think he was going to be a Dark Lord of the Sith, but there probably was going to be more Jar Jar, and like all of that had to be axed. Like I think that film changed the most dramatically from the original treatments.
I know there were changes being made
sure he would have
during filming, and I don't think that's true. As true, I know that he was always tweaking things on the other two movies as well, but I've seen some behind the scenes that suggest that a lot of stuff was being altered and changed and improvised during filming for Attack of the Clones.
Well, the entire droid factory just came up out of nowhere. Like there's in the behind the scenes there's an interview with Natalie Portman, and she just doesn't know like what's going on that day until she turns up, and Lucas is like, "Oh, just run along this and it'll look great," and she's like, "What's going on?" Like she doesn't give a script for that day.
I've heard about him like writing, the scene that they were filming the morning before they film it. That's how constrained that film was.
Attack of the Clones definitely struggled the most of all of them.
Yeah,
it's the same thing that happened with The Hobbit. That's kind of like what killed those films as well, was not given enough time for planning. It'd be interesting to know like what the original Attack of the Clones was meant to be like. If he could if there was a Lord of the Rings kind of treatment, if he could film them all at the same time across 3-4 years, and then they released them 1 year apart, like what would Attack of the Clones have looked like if it wasn't a direct reaction to the criticism?
Man, I don't know. Jar Jar probably would have played a bigger role.
Interesting thing.
Yeah, I think Jar Jar definitely
George
would have been more involved.
I think George would have had Jar Jar mature. Like, I don't think he would have stayed like that the whole trilogy. Like, I feel like he definitely.
Apparently, he wanted to make Jar Jar just speak normal English in Attack of the Clones and just not even explain it.
He was the
Just
key
like
to all
as like a screw you to like all the critics, just be like, here you go, he just speaks English now. Like
Misa,
no
so
no
glad to be
accent,
seeing
anything.
We just had an
He's
entire
like,
Jar Jar episode.
Yo, what's up, Anakin?
Yeah, literally just be like that. Just
Anakin, good
don't
to
even
see
explain
you.
it. Yeah.
That would.
Just have used loads of slang.
Misa, so
Yeah.
He's really casual.
Jar Jar. Oh, dude. I don't know. I feel like the Darth Jar Jar theory did a lot to help rehabilitate the prequel's image. And I don't mean that it gave people new perspective, but it got people looking back at the prequels and rewatching them and then realizing, actually,
It got
I do
people
kinda
looking at
like
them
this.
closer, yeah, like
Yeah.
looking for more subtleties. Because like the
yeah.
Darth Jar Jar one I think is more of a joke, but there are other subtleties that people picked up that like actually do help contextualize those films better
Yeah.
in
Well,
your memory.
It's just because it was such a cultural thing that everybody thought was so funny and they were getting involved in it that it was giving them, because that I've talked about this a lot. The Red Letter Media stuff did a lot to make people not like those movies, and I think in a lot of ways unjustifiably.
It gave a lot of talk of like funny talking points to dislike the films, and it was more like you felt that you were more in the joke to dislike the films than out of it, you know?
Yeah. And those videos were being done from the perspective of a fictional reviewer character. You know,
Yeah.
those
Yeah,
aren't real reviews. They're entertainment kind of posing as reviews. Self-admitted. But it did give a lot of people...
You got a lot of that back then.
Yeah, and I'm not like shitting on them or anything, but it did give people an idea of the prequels that I think after some time, stuff like Darth Jar Jar and stuff, when everybody was like okay with them being made fun of, then they went back and rewatched them. Like, actually, there's some stuff in these movies that are kind of fire, honestly.
And
Jar Jar-
adults
think that
are
was
meant
a-
to
was
find
a-
Jar Jar stupid, and like, you know, he's not meant to be
Annoying.
like an empathetic character.
I'm gonna
He is
start wearing,
annoying. That's yeah.
I'm gonna start wearing.
He's
a Jar
Mr.
Jar
Blobby.
shirt.
Like that's a UK reference right there, but Mr. Blobby is not endearing for adults. But Mr. Blobby was loved by like 5-year-old children.
Fuck is
That's
Mr.
what Jar
Blobby?
Jar is. That's the most UK reference
Yeah,
possible.
I must have missed Mr. Blobby.
Oh my god, I'm so old. But if you look at Mr. Blobby, he's a man in a big fat purple suit with yellow polka dots, and he just goes onto people's sets on like other TV shows and just wrecks everything. And that's what he was known for.
Wow.
Like Mr. Blobby would just come on and destroy things on TV.
Yeah, I missed
And for a 5-year-old
I
kid,
was past
that's the
it.
best thing ever. You're watching the news and then Mr. Blobby runs on and he just starts smashing up the table. Hilarious. That's Jar Jar. You know, he's not a serious character. Adults think, oh, get this guy out of here. That's kind of what I mean, that's the reaction Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon have when they meet him. They're like, who the fuck's this guy?
Apparently, Mr. Blobby's still going. Right
I didn't know. I was not aware of that. But yeah, so you know it's a shame that I guess people. It's just that people had obviously an idea in their head of what Star Wars was, and I think we're luckily past that now, and that Star Wars is you know it encompasses the prequels. Like that's allowed. That's a
Well,
part of Star Wars now.
That happened a lot back then. I mean, again with the new Jedi Order, it's funny how revered it is in the EU community now. Back then, the same Star Wars fans that hated the prequels had the exact same reaction to that series. You know, it's different. You know, it's too dark. You know, it's miserable. Oh, they're killing off this character and blah blah blah, and that's not right, and that's not Star Wars. That rhetoric still goes around today. You still get people saying, you know, oh, the Yuuzhan Vong don't fit in Star Wars, or blah blah. It doesn't feel like Star Wars. And the same people.
That's part of the reason I
say
think the
same
sequel
thing.
trilogy didn't resonate with people because it tries so hard to be DOT and be like,
Yeah.
we want you to be your own thing. Stop trying so hard to be like, oh, prequels didn't happen. Like we're going back to the good old days, guys. And I'm like, no, like be something, be your own thing, be
I think
something
they-
new. I mean, it still probably would have sucked because
I
it's
was about
Disney,
to
but
say,
still.
they could have gotten away with doing that if the writing had been good. The problem with
Yeah.
those, no amount of being its own thing could have made Rey a compelling character because there's nothing compelling there. But
Mhm.
you know, this I've thought about this a lot. Going back to the original trilogy, people say about the this is too dark. This is too dark. A New Hope was a really dark film. One of the first things we see early on
Yeah.
is Obi-Wan chops a guy's hand off and blood is all over the floor. Even though that never happens again, there's like blood
The
leaking.
whole
from...
planet gets blown up.
Uncle Owen and Aunt
Yeah.
Beru
Yeah,
are
a
seeing
whole
as
civilized
skeletons,
planet.
burnt
Yeah.
skeletons that Luke's picking up.
I mean, what
Dead
I always
Jawas on the
say-
ground.
And the planet gets blown up
Well,
for
I
like no
always-
good reason, just because a princess is being a little
Yeah.
bit insolent, and then
It
boom.
implies Leia gets tortured.
What I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I always say to people is that I think people have such a stupid, rigid view of what Star Wars should be, and I mean not everyone, because it has an identity, but I think people forget, like, The Empire Strikes Back was criticized initially for being too different to Star Wars because it's like a totally different film. It's got a totally different feel, totally different tone, and then Return of the Jedi again has a totally different feel and tone. The Phantom Menace has a totally different feel and style. Then Attack of the Clones is really different, and then Revenge of the Sith is very different. I mean, each Star Wars film, they share qualities, like we were talking about with the prequels having this sort of Shakespearean sort of style, but each one is like a different type of old story. Like Revenge of the Sith is like a tragedy. Each Star Wars film has like a totally unique identity. So it amazes me that some people can't accept the idea of a Star Wars story going for a different style or a different, tone or something. But some people, they just can't. It has to feel like, what Star Wars is in my mind, instead of just thinking, oh, this isn't interesting, and go at it. Again, that's the problem with the sequel trilogy. It's just trying too hard to be, something we already know and like. It's like, oh, you like this thing, like this too.
I think all of that's probably true, but I was specifically thinking about, because anytime Star Wars tries to get a little dark, people are like, oh, well, Star Wars isn't supposed to be dark, and my mind immediately flashes back to A New Hope, like burnt skeletons and chopped off hands, and it's like it wasn't like it was for kids, but it also wasn't assuming that kids couldn't see violence,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when in Empire Strikes Back, when Han was put on the carbonite, he's locked in concrete. That was done because he could have potentially died in between those films. He didn't know if Harrison Ford was coming back. So you could have opened up with Return of the Jedi and be like, yeah, he died in the concrete. Too bad. Okay, next, moving on.
We'll explain it in the book.
Luke gets his hand cut off. I mean, that's pretty fucking violent, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The OT was violent. War. The OT was violent. It was dark. A Wampa is killing people in The Empire Strikes Back. Actually, that may have been from a deleted scene. That was a deleted scene. There was supposed to be a Wampa killing stormtroopers in Empire, but they deleted it.
It was dark, but it was actually like it was like a light-hearted comedy moment, wasn't it? Because C-3PO, isn't that when C-3PO rips off the Wampa sign or something on the door? Oh no, that's in the Lego one. But in the original deleted scene, I think they just open the door and the Wampa's arm like comes out and like
grabs and pulls it, and then they shut the door. It was comedic,
in the Lego one, there's actually like a sign that says like "Do not open." There's like monsters in here, and C-3PO runs by and like tears it down, and then the stormtrooper sign. Actual thing happens, but like I think I was cut out because it was a bit like lighthearted for what they were going for.
It's probably better that they cut it, to be honest. But in Return of the Jedi, Luke gets shock tortured.
People talk about Star Wars being really whimsical. Like, I don't think that Empire Strikes Back has like a note of whimsy about it. That's a pretty depressing film.
It definitely does have whimsy. Like when Yoda's talking to
Luke, Yoda, maybe, yeah.
That's
still
pretty
like
whimsical.
Elsewhere, it ends pretty miserable and it starts pretty miserable with a loss, and they totally lose in that film. There's no winning, and Luke almost spits in the face of that whimsy. When he sort of disobeys them and he he leaves and he doesn't learn from that until much later. That's what Return of the Jedi is kind of about. That he thinks about it more and he goes back. And it turns out he's learned all that stuff on his own.
The happy ending at the end of Empire Strikes Back is carried a lot by how bright that room is when like Luke is getting his hand repaired. Like it ends with him like looking out over the stars, like leading into Return of the Jedi, and it almost feels like not that tragic of an ending. I feel like if you were watching like Return of the Sith, Revenge of the Sith, sorry, they would have a very different approach to that. Obviously, it's meant to feel like very tragic and bad at the end. I think if they were going for that approach, people wouldn't have this view that like, oh, these are more like happy films, because it is just like in this bright, white room. He kisses Leia. They look out at the stars, being like, oh, it's not too bad.
Well, no, I feel quite differently about The Empire Strikes Back. I think it's quite a miserable ending, really, because I mean,
people were not happy about it when it came out.
Yeah, they lose their base. They lose, one of the greatest heroes that they've got. They've lost, at this point in the war, they're losing now. They've been on the run for that film, and now they've got nowhere to go. Luke loses his hand. He finds out who his father is. He's lost all hope. He's messed up his training. Leia's lost the man she's just fallen in love with. And and he's totally gone. I think it's pretty sad, but Revenge of the Sith, it's weird because it's really tragic, but at the same time, you watch it and oh well, it's set up now to be okay. Like I come to the end of the film and it's really tragic, and then you get to the final few scenes, and then it's like, oh no, well that's Luke and Leia, and they're gonna go on to fix everything. It's a bittersweet because you think this is so tragic and so sad, but you also think it's actually quite positive too because it's gonna we know by the end that everything's gonna be okay.
Does Luke get sent to Tatooine before crosses looking a star? I guess it depends on how the film ends, right? Because those two scenes are the ending scenes.
It ends on Luke as a baby. That's like the final shot, and it.
Yeah. Okay. So it ends with the hope, basically. Yeah. It shows like this is the bad stuff that's about to happen, and then it ends on the hope. Okay. But if you just flip those scenes, it actually would have completely kind of changed how those films ended.
Vader crosses his arms, and then you get Leia, and then you get Luke. I think, and it closes on Luke. I think is how it goes.
It does close on the Twin Sons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think maybe it's about time to wrap
up.
Yep. We haven't even talked about the OT for a minute. We can maybe read a couple comments for like 5 minutes and see what they say. Scott Thinker says, the prequels are still flawed, but very much have passion. Personally, I'd say the Hobbit prequels are better prequels than the Star Wars prequels. You're wrong, but I do appreciate the Hobbit prequels. Thoughts, guys?
I would agree with what you said, Evan, because the Hobbit is so painfully dragged out, and you don't get that sense in the Star Wars prequels. Each film is paced pretty well. I think Attack of the Clones maybe goes a bit too slowly, but it doesn't feel like, hey, this is one book that we're stretching out. This is, these were 3 separate stories that get their own film, and you don't have that in the Hobbit.
Could have even made more than 3 films, I think, with the Star Wars prequels. They could have been even more than that.
Yeah, and the Hobbit the Hobbit it actually does what the Star Wars prequels are accused of, which is that it's like all CGI.
Yeah, that's a big downgrade as well. Going from watching Lord of the Rings, if you see that as the OT, and then going into the Hobbit, it's so much CGI. Where that's not the case in stuff like the Phantom Menace. Like not all the aliens were CGI. Like quite a lot of them are like props and models. Like Sebulba, for example, was an actual puppet. You don't. Those criticisms actually don't apply.
And just in general,
the puppet initially too.
In general,
there's a reason why like Dexter, Jetster, and stuff are like quite infamous. Is because they were the rare examples where they tried to do that almost a little bit too early. Like Jar Jar, Dexter, Jetster. It's really like those two. Yoda, I think, actually was done really well.
Yeah.
And there were no CG characters in The Hobbit. I think were done really well. They all stand out. The orc bad guy who actually was in makeup originally, and they completely CGI'd him for some reason later on. He looked consistently like he stood out in every scene he was in.
In general, I just think the stories are better for the prequels, and I only say that because, like you said, it's just too dragged out. The Hobbit is shorter than an individual of each of the Lord of the Rings films, and it's
taken that Heir of the Force book we read and splitting it into 3 prequel-sized films. And like, how are you going to do that?
It's too much.
Well, I have to say, I've seen the Lord of the Rings films, but I still haven't worked myself up to watching the Hobbit films because I want to read the book instead. Because I'm just not really interested. Because I know
read the book and then you can find there's a fan edit that splits it into like a single like 2.5, 3 hour long film. That's probably a good way to watch it. I've watched that, and it does solve a lot of the issues with the pacing because it splits it into like the length it should have been.
And I like the Hobbit movies,
by the way.
I'm a defender of those.
Oh yeah, I like them. I'm not sitting here like I think they're terrible. Like it's just they don't stand up to Lord of the Rings.
No, well, nothing does. I've told my girlfriend before that I think the original Lord of the Rings trilogy are the 3 greatest movies ever made. Like that may be a hot take, but I just think in terms of watchability, cinematography, score, acting, I think that those 3 films are like the culmination of everything that a film can be executed as well as it could be.
I think definitely for a fantasy film, I can agree. I'm not going to say for all films just because I've not really watched enough really to say that definitively. But I can say in my opinion for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, my hot take is that I think they're great. I don't love them. Not exactly my thing. I think they're great. It's not my thing. It's not.
I can understand that.
I wasn't attracted to it.
Yeah.
I think
if you're not into that kind of low,
I've seen Lord of the Rings.
Extended
like middle fantasy. you're just
That's
not
the
going
thing.
to
I
be
want to
really
watch the
into it.
extended ones, but I struggle with the length of the normal ones.
But they're
Just
okay.
'cause
Well,
they're still quite long.
I'm about to say that's tough. If you
They,
struggle with
they,
the length
they
of the
work
normal
better.
ones,
They
then...
work better with friends, I think. Like if you get a Lord of the Rings like extended trilogy, sit down watch with like a group of friends, like turn it into a drinking game or something like that. Really
Hanging
helps
out.
works to like yeah, just hanging
I
out.
don't think I could get anybody to agree to that.
Fair enough.
Especially my generation has such a short
Yeah, I think
attention span.
that's the generational difference. Like for my
Yeah.
generation, like and Evans, it came out when we were kids, and it was very much like when you were 15, like getting all the boys together to sit and watch Lord of the Rings trilogy was like a good afternoon, or like a
Yeah.
good day, really spent.
I'm so inconsistent about that because like I normally do not like long movies. Most of the time when I'm watching a movie, all I'm thinking of is this could have been cut down by 15 to 20 minutes. I'm like that, but there's the occasional long movie that I'm like, nothing in this could be cut. It needed to be this. And the Lord of the Rings extended trilogies I would not even consider watching the theatrical cuts of those movies unless I had to. And Zack Snyder's Justice League is another good example of like a 4-hour movie that I'm willing to watch.
I don't think I
all
could
the
tell
way
you the
through.
difference between the two because I only watched the theatrical cuts once in theaters, and it's since then been the extended cuts.
Right.
So I don't even
That's
know
what I'm
what's
saying.
extended.
Because
Yeah.
why would you watch the theatrical cuts?
Yeah.
I think the plan I had was I wanted to read The Hobbit and then read Lord of the Rings and then watch the extended versions of Lord of the Rings and then watch the Hobbit films, which I'm still going to do at some point. But that's quite a commitment.
Yeah, that needs.
it's
I think you need to put
probably-
some breaks into that as well because, like, if you try and do it all together, I think you
Yeah.
will just burn out.
It's too
On-
much.
on
What
the
I'd probably
series for
do
sure, yeah.
is just read The Hobbit and then eventually read Lord of the Rings. And then eventually I'll watch the extenders. Like, big gaps in between. I mean, I've already got a few things planned right now. I
Yeah.
can't do that anytime soon.
I personally don't feel like the Lord of the Rings fiction and universe is as fun as Star Wars, which is why when I say that statement about the Lord of the Rings original trilogy being the greatest movies ever made, they ask me, so you like that more than Star Wars? I say no. I would rather watch Star Wars. If somebody was
Star
like,
Wars
"Dude,
has a better galaxy.
Yeah.
I mean, as you've seen with the Amazon show, I just don't think like the Silmarillion, like it's a cool kind of setup for the Lord of the Rings, but the Lord of the Rings is its own story that works within that time span. I just don't think as a universe there's as much to build on with it. It's
Yeah,
not
I
as
agree.
interesting. There's not as many outside stories that can happen that are as interesting to watch, you know?
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
think you
not-
can have a small story about a little Hobbit jailbreak or something and it'll be as appealing as the Lord of the Rings epic.
Yeah.
Whereas I
I
think
wouldn't
Star
watch
Wars
it.
Star
can have
Wars, you
those
can-
smaller stories.
Yeah, you can read a book in Star Wars that's amazing. That's just about some random people that have nothing to do with any of the films. That's like 2,000 years before the films, and you're still interested.
Whereas
Yeah.
I won't even read the Lord of the Rings because I don't care that much. I think the Lord of the Rings movies are great movies, but I'm not interested in the fantasy world that Tolkien has created. It's great, but I like those films. I like Star Wars for the galaxy.
The Lord of the Rings is actually hurt by the fact that it's set up bloody everything. So you'll watch it and be like, this is so... Oh, no, you'll read it and you'll be like, this is so generic. And it's like, it's generic because it's the first.
Yeah,
Like,
everything else came from
Well, as,
originator. Yeah.
I get that as a lot as a horror fan, you know, because I think Halloween, the first Halloween's one of the best films ever made, and then I'll get people that watch it and think, oh, well, this is boring. I've seen all this before. And I think, well, it's
Yeah.
boring. And you've seen it all before because that's where they all got it from. That's where it all comes from. But it's that sometimes you do feel like that, when you've seen all other stuff. Luckily for me, I was shown Halloween before I watched a lot of that stuff, so it did. I watched it and I thought 10 out of 10 masterpiece, and I still do. But again, like I said, a more modern audience. So when you watch Scream, it has the Halloween like climax in the film on a TV. So it's like one of those things that you just like know. And you do get that with some stories, like you said. When you
And speaking of like names with the Darth names, I mean Mount Doom, like there's like stuff like that.
There's
like,
a meme making fun of that where it's like
yeah,
Tolkien trying to
of
come
all,
up
all
with
the
names.
names.
I'll call it
Like
murder.
Lord of the Rings. Yeah. There's a lot of that in the Lord of the Rings, so I don't think you can hold Lucas too badly for that. He was trying to make at the end of the day serials, like the serials he watched in the 50s, like these like little cheaply made sci-fi serials that you would go and watch like episode 42 and you have no idea what's going on. That's what he was making.
And I also
That was
think
the
that
inspiration.
they come from an era that Gabriel, you're a little bit younger. I don't know if you could even conceptualize this, but people like Tolkien and to a lesser degree Lucas, but still Lucas, they come from an era where men like that would not conceive that people would take a fictional universe's like lore or canonicity seriously. That didn't exist back then. Like doing that,
That's how
people
I
would,
view George,
would look
yeah.
at you funny, right? So Tolkien was like this. Tolkien would say the name of the mountain doesn't matter. That's not the point. It's like a story that you read every like on your off days to like get something, derive some pleasure and get something out of. But you should be like working. You should be being a man, right? So we exist in an era where
fiction
people
at that time very much was often just set in the real world. Like the fact that like a fantasy fiction book, like, I was like completely out of the realm. And even like by George, like sci-fi had been around, but sci-fi was still also trying to be like, oh, this is science. Like you're being smarter for reading this book. You know, there's some stuff going on here. We're gonna talk about how this ship flies and all like how it manipulates gravity and stuff.
and it was typically just set in the future.
Yeah.
After the moon landing as well, and the 60s, I think people were very much obsessed with like realistic sci-fi, that has some resemblance to reality. But Evan, I always agree with you on what you said there. I say this a lot to people about George Lucas. People get so obsessed with what he considered canon, and I think the man still doesn't think in terms of canon, because I mean back when he was younger, you talked of canon as in like the literary canon or in a religious context. You didn't really talk about canon as in fictional worlds. That's just not what you did. These were just films to him. And then it became this big massive world, and I don't think he ever sat and thought, well, you're writing that book for me, but that's not canon to me. I think he just thought like, oh, go make that book, whatever. That's your book, it's not my book. I think that's the way that he views it.
I think he viewed a lot of the EU stuff more like as a business thing. He's not looking at the toy deals he made and be like, oh, is this action figure canonical? Does it canonically move the way I would have it move in the films? I think he saw the books like that. Like, this is a business deal for me.
He's
and
like,
these books, I get some money off these.
People will enjoy reading these, but they're not going to be taking it that seriously, which we did. But
yeah.
That wasn't intended.
Yeah. But there's some quote somewhere. I wish I could find it because I love it and I use it a lot. I will try to find it at some point. That a friend shared with me about. He talks about canon, and he talks about the way he describes it is he says there's my story, and then there's the story that like the books and the comics make. He mentions the Clone Wars, and he says, and then there's the fans' world, which is literally him acknowledging fan fiction as canon, because he just says that all people have their own views on it, and that's their interpretation.
That's coming from like the religious aspect, when people talk about religious canon, like the different denominations within a single religion itself will interpret the Bible or whatever religion it might be entirely differently.
That's been an ongoing issue for thousands of years at this point. That's
but like I think that's Lucas saying the same. Like, you can interpret Star Wars like that way. Like, there's my stories, which you can say is like, oh, this is the originator, this is the first copy. But then there's other denominations that come after that have added their own stuff into it, and they change the interpretations.
I don't think he's especially like rigid on his version being the only accepted version and the only accepted interpretation, because he's like you talk about he's like a classic filmmaker. I think he is very much into films that people view differently, and that people enjoy in different ways and get a different meaning out of. So as much as I think he's one of those directors that he wants people to have their own interpretation, but he also, and this is why I think some people struggle, he's also happy to say what it means to him. Because some people will say, well, that's the truth because that's what the artist says it's meant to do and meant to say. That still doesn't mean you can't interpret it a different way. Or
see that a lot in his talk with I think it was with Spielberg, where like they're talking about analogies to like the Vietnam War and stuff, and George would be like, oh yeah, that's how I did it. He's not saying, oh, I was alluding to that. It's like, no, I meant that exactly with the Ewoks and all that. Like, that's what it means. He's not trying to like
Yeah, because you get some directors, that they want to say like, oh well, I'm not going to say because I don't want to spoil it for anyone.
But he's happy to be like, no, this is what it meant. This is what exactly what I was trying to say.
That's like what David Lynch's like whole attitude is. About he doesn't like to explain it himself because he wants people to have their their view of it, like Mulholland Drive, which he just refuses to give a proper explanation to because you get your own explanation by viewing the film, and that means you have to you have to like compile all the things he said over the years and and compare them to his beliefs and stuff like that, and then try decipher, oh, must be what he means. I can see why some artists do that. I personally often like more when they just say, oh, this is what I
also tend to prefer that. There was a brief stint from like from like ages 16 to 23 when I really liked the other side. I was all in on interpretation and exploring what it could mean. And then somewhere around 23, I was like, I'm fucking done with this. I don't want to do this anymore.
The way I see it, like, interpretation is always implied. Like, you can always
Right.
interpret something differently. But like, I like to have this is what the original creator meant. But you can take that and whatever way you
Yeah.
want.
Well,
That's why I think the whole debate about like Fallout being anti-capitalism is stupid, because like it's since Bethesda bought it has become more of that way, and you could have always interpreted it that way. There was always anti-capitalistic like angles, like definitely since the first game. Like that might have not been Tim Kane's original interpretation, but it doesn't mean it was wrong.
Right.
I think both can be true.
I'm really good friends with this this other YouTuber named Your Favorite Son, and he put it a really interesting way for me. I don't know if he coined this or if he got it from somewhere, but he said, I think he may have gotten it from somewhere else, but I'm just thinking of him. He said, when your art hits the shelf, it's no longer yours. He said, when you finished it and given it out, it's not yours anymore. It belongs to whoever reads it. Right, so the universe is theirs to interpret and apply to themselves, however it resonates with them at that time. So you can write something with intention, and if someone else reads it and they say, "I love this because of this reason," you're like, "But I didn't put that in there." Doesn't mean it's not, and it's not really yours to tell them that it's not there.
Yeah.
If it was, don't sell it, don't release it, keep it for yourself. But if you want other people to read it, then there has to be a letting go.
Yeah.
Yeah. The same scene can be based on unbased, depending on who's like viewing it.
That's true.
That's strict true for like every scene ever.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, we've seen entire movies have cultural resurgences from people intentionally, deliberately misinterpreting it, like American Psycho, where I watched something where somebody was like trying to break down how people didn't understand that this movie was making fun of masculinity, and the masculinity red
It's
pill
now the
guys have
goal.
latched onto
People watch Bateman's like opening intro and be like, "That's how I have to look after myself to be the ultimate
That
man."
happens so
1,000 sit-ups every morning.
But
I mean,
I
it's
think
like when you get people that watch Dexter for some reason and really like root for him and think like the message that you're supposed to like. That's not the point. I mean, the idea of Dexter is that he's a serial killer that has somewhere.
But people make that mistake
part
with
of his
protagonists
ritual.
all the time, right? Like a
Yeah,
protagonist
they
is the
do.
main character of the film, so they think, "Oh, this must be the good guy." And I'm like, "No, but the protagonist
that's
can
why-
be the terrible."
I think a lot of
Breaking
it,
Bad, right? Breaking Bad, like
I
that's
was
not
gonna
a good
say
guy.
some people still stick with Walt and root for him to the end, even though
but that's
that's
what
not
I was
supposed to be the point.
trying to get at a little bit earlier. Is I think the majority of that is intentionally misinterpreted. I think these people know
Oh yeah, I don't
that
think
they're
actually
not
people
supposed
think
to agree
American
with it.
Psycho is what you're meant to. Yeah,
But it's
I think they
really funny.
yeah, it's really
it's-
funny to think like, yeah, I'm gonna start doing this every day.
It's really funny to intentionally misinterpret it, and actually stick to it, because I've seen some scenes from like some of these movies, like some of the Breaking Bad scenes, and I'm like, you know what, maybe I do need a little bit more backbone in this way or whatever. That doesn't mean he was right to cook meth and poison kids. It just means that I maybe got a little something different from that. But whenever you try to express that, somebody's like, he's the bad guy, right? It's like,
Oh yeah, like the character arc of Walt is very endearing. He goes from this like pushed over dad who's like kind of like at the end of his life, really. Like he has nothing else to live for. That's why he's not that shocked when he gets the cancer. When he's told he's dying of
becomes this
cancer,
big,
he's just like,
powerful
yeah,
guy,
that makes sense. Yeah, and then suddenly he
part
has
of,
that whole change.
I think the point of Breaking Bad as well is a reaction to The Sopranos, which the Sopranos was like, we've got this really bad guy, can you follow him and stick with him, and people could. And then the next level was, which is what I love, which I guess I don't know if this was intentionally the idea.
We've
but
got
I
this
always
good
look at
guy.
Breaking
Can you agree with him going
Well,
evil?
I thought the idea of Breaking Bad, which I really like, is that how long will you stick with him for? How long will you root for him until he's gone too far for you
it's
to
the way
root for
like
him anymore?
the prequels have had that resurgence, right? In that, like, I think we all love Anakin as a character. And how far will you stick with him? It's like, well, killing kids. Still
I was
think he's
about
a
to
cool,
say-
cool character.
I think I know exactly where I draw the
You get people
line.
justifying.
Yeah.
You get people justifying it. I mean, I remember when it happens all the time, right? I'll talk to somebody and they're always saying, Anakin was good and blah blah blah, and I say, yeah, but what about when he slaughtered all the Tuscan women and children? And then they go, oh, I wasn't thinking about that.
Well,
that always happens,
The Tuscans drank people. I don't know if that one was really that bad. Like the
True.
younglings
if you
was
read,
one
like,
thing.
If you read, but the thing is, the different groups of Tuskens are like very different and they all act differently, and some of them are like quite.
He found his mom
noble, and some of
actively
them are
enslaved
quite...
in that camp, dehydrated.
True. But based
Still,
on
I mean, the
Like,
children,
he didn't
Kotor
show up and
lore-
kill them
justify...
on orders. He found his
based on
dying
Kotor lore, they're
mom.
just people, though, aren't they? They're just humans.
Yeah, but
Mm,
does that
no,
justify killing the children? Though,
I thought, wasn't it you find out that they're basically just humans, and then they get really offended and try and kill you?
Yeah,
in
but
KOTOR?
also you have to be such a certain way, because if you make one wrong decision, their first instinct is to try and kill you. Like, the majority of dialogue options are they react extremely violently. Like, these are not like innocent people living their lives. They actively hunt and enslave and kill people. Maybe you shouldn't have killed the women and children. I don't know about that, but I'm just saying that, like, slaughtering younglings in the Jedi Temple is like one thing. Killing a camp of slavers.
They're still
You
kids.
see, from
I mean, the
my
thing is
point
that
of view, the
they're still
Jedi are
children.
evil and Tusken Raiders aren't, so...
I hadn't thought about that.
yeah.
I think as well. I think I'm really sympathetic toward the Tuskens after reading Kenobi, because in that story, very much the people are more villains than the Tuskens, like way more. And also you get to see that most of the Tuskens are people, and like humans. The way that the way they kept going is that they kidnap people and then they'd make them Tuskens. That's probably what was happening to Shmi. Is that they were going to try and make her, into a Tusken.
They're doing like the military, like break them down and build them back up kind of thing.
Well, that's what they did. That's what happens with what's his name, Asherad Het, and his father Sharad Het, who he joined them, and they made him into a Tusken. He was like the only human that they thought like, wow, this guy's good. And then they started kidnapping humans and making them into Tuskens. And what they do is they just break them. They just break them to the point where they accept that, I'm a Tusken now. And
So, interestingly,
we missed out on Anakin having a Tusken half brother.
I think where the morality debate in this, granted it's just a fiction story or whatever, but I think that where the morality debate tends to get obfuscated in between people having discussion is the difference between, was it justified or was it excusable?
Oh yeah, like
right?
Anakin's emotional choice is justified with the Tuskens because it was out of pure revenge and anger. Whereas you can't say the same about the younglings. So that's where the younglings is less understandable, because it was very much like, yeah, your master said kill the younglings so you can save your wife, and he's weighing up in his head like, yeah, this is a fair trade.
But another thing about that is like with
it's like cold blood versus hot blood, I guess.
But Anakin also,
for me, it's understandable, but I don't agree with it. And I don't,
right.
I
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I understand it.
I think what happens is somebody tries to say what Anakin did was wrong, and then someone else says, well, can you see what was going on? They're not saying Anakin was right to kill Tusken children, but they're saying from a perspective, can you see like why that's different? Why there's something that happened there. It's not, I would recommend Jedi kill Tusken children. That's not really the argument. You know what I mean? It's like killing Tusken children
say,
bad.
I do really like stories as well that show like, how certain things that happen can affect your morals. I mean, I love, The Walking Dead, and especially the comics. And one of my favorite things is that you start it thinking, oh my God, these people are so terrible. And then later on, you're rooting for people doing the same things because you experience all these horrible things that make you think, oh, we have to do that. Or, that's understandable. In a world like that, you get it. And I think that is probably what makes Anakin's story so good.
Is it the governor, the one who kills Glenn? Like, they changed his character into essentially like being a good guy. And they did that kind of thing where Negan still does some pretty messed up things, but now that he's on like the good side, it's like you root for him now.
Oh, yeah, I will say. Right,
I always rooted for Negan because they depicted him playing Xbox 360 in a leather jacket before the outbreak.
He plays Gears of War, and he says when he comes out in the lineup, and he kills Glad. He comes out when he says, "You're shitting your pants, yeah." He says, "Are we pissing our pants yet?" He says the same thing on the Xbox 360 to kids on Gears of War. But, I think, you're right, Julia. The difference is that in the show,
rage baiting people on 360.
Right? In the show, Negan gets this full redemption arc. He gets a wife and he joins the good guys. What I love is in the comics, he doesn't. He gets exiled and he sort of spends his life in solitude. He understands what he's done wrong. And he helps them out, and they do have him with them sometimes. I can't believe, it's so sad we didn't get it in the show. We get to see Rick and Negan side by side in the comics, working together, and it's so good. And like Rick goes to him to get support on how to lead, and it's so good. But like I said, he goes off and he gets this little house, and he spends the rest of his life, no one knows who he is. or no one knows where he is. Carl goes out looking for him all the time, and he never ever finds him for his entire life. I mean, he just becomes this mysterious figure. It's that thing. I think it's a modern storytelling issue. I think they tried so hard to redeem him in the show when the comics were more comfortable having him be, not fully good. He was more, somewhere in the middle. He becomes,
Yeah.
He
I guess going back to
super hero
Anakin,
points.
like while you can understand and emphasize with the Tusken Raider choice, you're meant to see that as like the start, like it's the start of the demise.
That's why I like it so
yeah.
much, though. It's because like
Yeah.
he makes that decision, and
There is no redemption like after that. Anakin
Yeah.
doesn't. Well, I guess the Clone Wars kind of does change that in that he gets some
Yeah,
redemption,
no.
I guess, in the Clone Wars
we
series.
won't think about the Clone
But
Wars.
yeah,
it's-
if you go through the film linearity, he's never like the good guy after that moment.
I like how real
Yeah.
that feels, though, because I feel like that happens in microcosms to people in real life. Is like we make decisions that are bad, but because it's like, oh, anyone in that position would have struggled not to do X. Like we make bad decisions, and then later on, when push comes to shove, we all have an opportunity where we fucked up, we've gone too far, we've made a bunch of bad decisions now, and now we need to be like shown grace. Now we need to be like forgiven to get out of this position. That's why I love the character arc for Anakin so much. One of my favorite things about Star Wars in general is that the point of those films is that the mass murdering psychopathic child killer was forgiven. And that's hard for people to swallow. People like to ignore that. People like to say that Star Wars is about fighting tyrannical governments. It's like, no, it's about forgiveness. It's about redemption for the worst of us. And I think that's I'm not saying that we should just let bad people get away with bad things, but I think you're not supposed
that's
to.
the thing with,
you're supposed to interpret it in microcosms of our own
Yeah.
life. Like,
But it's
I'll-
also
That's the thing with
forgiveness within reason,
with-
isn't it?
what do you mean?
That's the thing
Because
with Vader, right?
Darth
He's still,
Vader gets redeemed, but they also don't really want much to do with him afterwards.
Right? Yeah, yeah. That's
yeah.
true.
Well, I was
You
gonna
know,
say,
it's like we
that's
forgive
the
you,
thing
but
with,
like don't start hanging around here too much.
That's
I was
fair.
gonna say
yeah,
that's the thing with Vader, right? Is that he gets redeemed, but it's not like he then gets to go on and live like a really lovely life and have another family and
yeah.
he gets like this perfect picture.
No one's
like,
entitled
he
to that.
dies and
no, yeah,
yeah, he dies and then he's still remembered as this horrible person for the rest of his life. I mean
Well,
that's
he
why
earned
that's
Mm-hmm.
exactly. But that's why the name Han and Leia named their third kid Anakin, because the goal is to sort of redeem the name so that when people hear Anakin, they think of this great hero, not this, horrible tyrant.
yeah. I guess that's what we're saying. They didn't go too far the other way. It's not like a New Republic mantra to be like, oh, Vader did nothing wrong, because that would have
Right,
been like
yeah,
the
that would be-
ridiculous way of approaching it.
That would
Yeah.
have undone a lot of the point. It's
Yeah.
one of the things, and I'm always on about this, but I think that pleasure and entertainment should be like should not be in your top 3 reasons for consuming media. I try to consume stuff that's going to inspire me to lift weights, get me hype, or that I can derive something meaningful from, even upon rewatches. And when I look at Star Wars and the forgiveness thing, it's like I try to apply that in like microcosms to my own life. It's like I'm not going to kill kids, but I will make little tiny mistakes that other people might have a justifiable right not to want anything to do with me or something like that. We all will. I'm not saying that I'm a bad person or something like that, but it's like, how can I apply this message of when
Everyone
someone
makes
has
bad
wronged me
decisions and-
so much and I have the opportunity to let it go and be like, you know what? I want to let this go because I want you to be able to get over this. Like, how can I embody that and perform that in the future? That's what I love so much about the Vader arc.
I think we all engage with art differently, but I agree. Like for me, I like to look for different things. I like to look for some emotional connection. My favorite stories is when it gets me emotional. That I love that. But I also like some sort of impact on the stories I love most is when it has some change in my philosophy or some change in the way that I view the world and people. It changes how I then act going forward. And I like some sort of depth, or because I study film and stuff. I like good cinematography, and I like a good story, and I like all of that stuff. That's what I like to get out of art. I saw recently, it was on Twitter, which is horrible players, but I thought this was a good point. People were saying, and it's a common thing people say, oh, let people enjoy, the TV show, let people enjoy it. But the thing is, this is how some people, when I critique a TV show, that's me, getting enjoyment out of it.
That's the
I might
fun.
critique it positively or negatively,
Yep.
but that's the fun for me.
I have a
that's
rant
how
about
I've
that at the
always
end of my
enjoyed television.
Starfield video, like a 5-minute rant, like about that same thing. People being like, "Oh, just enjoy the
remember that
game," and I'm like, "But I enjoy the game by thinking deeper than Bethesda let me think. And if they don't let me think this deep because there's so many plot holes and stuff, I don't enjoy it.
Fundamentally, that is the way that I engage with art. There's no other way I can do it. I can't shut my mind off and just think, oh, this is great. You know, I can't do it. Sometimes I can relax a bit and enjoy something a bit more or whatever, but I can't just shut my mind off.
I think it depends on the media. Like something like Call of Duty Zombies, they don't require you to think in terms of narrative. There is a narrative, but it's completely not important to the actual gameplay. So there are certain medias I think that allow that, but they want you to turn your brain off, right? That's part of it. I don't think when they're making, say, the Fallout TV show, they want you to turn your brain off, because then they wouldn't have included any dialogue. It would have just been action the entire. If that was the goal, it would have just been action the entire show.
They're trying real hard to turn my brain off when I'm watching it, though.
But but like that's clearly not the idea. So it is just a difference. Like I guess we don't, we consume, but we don't consume. We're not just like slop onto the sofa and let the rays beam into my eyes. We're happy to consume things, but we want it to do something to our brains.
We want to get something out of it. Yeah,
that's a good way of putting it. We consume, but we don't consume.
Yeah, that's the difference. Yeah. But we still definitely consume. I mean, we're on a Star Wars podcast about comic books by Marvel, owned by Disney, republished by them under Legends.
And that's another thing.
We're consuming right now.
Piggybacking off of your Starfield rant, in a slightly different context, I was talking to somebody about the canonical reasons why I think it made sense for Anakin's dialogue to be stiff, and the guy I was talking to said something along the lines of, "Yeah, but we both know that wasn't why. George Lucas just isn't very good at writing dialogue." And I had this thing click inside me where I took a step back and I was like, are you not interested in this conversation? Not aggressively, but this is fun for me. I have fun talking about silly Star Wars lore, and if you're like, no, just what's the fact, I want to be done with this, that's cool, because I don't want to waste your time talking about Star Wars if that's not what you're interested in. But that you win, that
I would argue that the words aren't intentional, but the actual delivery is, because you can see the behind the scenes and George being like, no, try it like this, and he'll say it until he gets what he wants. He wanted it to be delivered that way. Hayden would say, oh, why don't I try this? And George is like, no, do it like this way. You want to be like a whiny teenager, that's what I want.
It needs to be stiffer.
Yeah.
But that's I know it's not that fucking deep, but it's fun for me to talk about Ben Quadinaros and his pod racers. That's what I want to talk about.
It goes back to what you were saying about. There's a bit of what you were saying about American Psycho. We know Ben Quadinaros is a stupid name, but that's what makes it fun.
Yeah,
it's knowing that it's a stupid name.
I like talking about Jar Jar. That's what I'm here for.
Mm-hmm.
We're not here to talk about film theory.
I guess it's that for us, it's especially us two, Evan, is that the prequels were they're kid stuff to us. So it's the same way that I look at a Transformers cartoon, and I'm not taking it that seriously. It's a childhood cartoon,
right?
But it's my childhood cartoon, So I still have that with the prequels.
Yeah, I couldn't.
But I think I give the OT maybe a bit more reverence, because I did watch those when I was or at least I could interpret them better when I was a little bit older. I think I did watch them when I was younger, but they didn't tickle my child brain in the same way the prequels did.
I agree.
None of lightsaber fights.
I had definitely watched the original trilogy a whole bunch of times before the prequels came out. It's just because my mom was really into Star Wars, so she would put it on a lot. We had the special edition VHS set.
Nice.
All right, I guess we could probably just wrap this up. We knocked out the main topic within. We might need to figure out if we should be doing something else with the comics, because I feel like this happened in the Dark Empire episode as well.
It depends.
I think there's some longer issues, definitely.
Series.
Yeah.
Longer runs or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we should probably do. So, for example, I think at some point it'd be cool because we're doing Old Republic. We should read Tales of the Jedi. That's different arcs, so you could talk about an arc each time and then think of something else to talk about as well.
Yeah, that could be real. Well, I think it was a great episode. I still had fun anyway, even though we talked about all kinds of stuff, Lord of the Rings, whatever. Thank you, everybody who tuned in. We really appreciate it. We hope you enjoyed our ranting about how people consume media. I don't remember what was it. Was it a topic? No, it wasn't a topic. What was next? Was it a game?
Is it a book next?
Can't be a book.
Next is Deception.
Is
Isn't it?
next
Yeah, I think
Deception?
Novel, yeah.
Next is the Old
Deceived.
Republic. Deceived.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, cool,
Deceived.
cool.
The Old Republic.
Well, I don't
I'll
think
be
it's
starting it
gonna.
now.
I don't think it's gonna be in
Hopefully.
2 weeks. I think it's gonna have to be a little longer than that because I'm moving at the end of the month. So it may be early February before you see Starcasters back. We'll see how hectic stuff is.
Early
at the end
April.
of-
You mean?
Early April, yeah, early April before we're back. But thanks everybody for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I don't really have an outro for this, so bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
See ya.